I knew when I was doing these reviews, I was going to have to review something Clive Barker. So I picked something that I think we all know about, and that is The Hellbound Heart. This is a novella that was part of an anthology book and has now been released on its own. And it's been released on its own for a long time. The Hellbound Heart is about the lament configuration, which is basically if you open the lament configuration, the Cenobites come out, and they are demons, kind of. They're beings that have mixed pain and pleasure so much they can't tell the difference. So, man named Frank is just he's like a weird sexual deviant, and he's basically like he needs something more. Like he desires something more sexually. So he gets the lament configuration. He opens it, and the Cenobites take him to their domain where they just torture him and rip him apart and stuff. And anyway, part of him manages to get out of the lament configuration, and he reaches out to his brother's wife, Julia, who they've taken their parents' place. Frank and his brother's parents' place, and Julia's unhappy with her marriage to Frank's brother, and she wants to be with Frank because he's dangerous, and like she lusts over him. And it's basically she lures men in to kill them for Frank, so Frank can reform his body. Um, and that's pretty. Of course, they get caught by the Cenobites, and all hell breaks loose. Basically, I don't want to spoil too much. This is a very short book, but it's one of those books you can read in one sitting. That's what I did. And it's well worth your time. As you know, Clive Barker was very involved with when this was adapted to the movie Hellraiser. In fact, he quote unquote directed it. There are contradicting sources that say that he didn't really direct because he didn't know how to direct a film. But Clive Barker, he's quite the strange human being. That's kind of why I've not been super keen on reviewing his stuff because there are a lot of things people have said that he's like not a good person, and I'm not going to get into that. That's not for discussion here because there's a lot of things that I've heard, some of which I am not allowed to discuss. I was sworn to secrecy from based on some individuals that I have interviewed in the past or just talked to behind the scenes that have worked with him, and just there's a lot of things that have just made me not want to read it. Which is a shame because this is a prime example of you need to divorce yourself from the artist to enjoy the art, sort of, so to speak. And that's what I always kind of try to do on this channel. It's like even if I don't agree with the like an author, like say take Stephen King for instance. I do not agree with a lot of Stephen King's politics. I find that they kind of disrupt his stories, but I still like his work enough to have a podcast dedicated to his work, you know? And I'm doing this, trying to do the same thing with Clive Barker here, where this is a solid 5 out of 5. This is probably his biggest must read of all of his works. This is well worth your time. It's very easy to get a copy of this. It's such a fast read. It's gross, but not as gross as you'd think. It's very approachable and well worth your time. So, anyway, have a nice day.